Hello, welcome. This is Unit 9, Skill 1. These are the notes. Hope everybody's doing well. Um, so the theme for today is going to be polynomials. So we'll talk about what polynomials are, and we'll be mostly just adding and subtracting them together today, and also naming these and calling these by their name. So let's start with the definition for a polynomial. A polynomial is essentially a monomial or a sum or difference of monomials. This first table are all examples of monomials. Monomials just mean one term. So each one of these, there's nothing besides just this one thing. That's why they're called monomials. So all of these are specifically called monomials, but more generally, these are polynomials, and any of these that have one or two or more terms are all polynomials. Now, they do have specific names. So basically, for the degree, what we mean by that is the highest exponent for the variable, usually x. So the largest exponent that we see is going to be the degree. So in this case, here we have no x whatsoever. So we say that the degree is 0. In the next row, if there is no exponent attached to a variable, we always assume that it's 1. Otherwise, we'll have a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5, and that's actually the degrees. Okay, so this is what it would look like. Now, they do have specific names. So something that is degree 0, we call that constant. The name for something that is a degree 1, that's linear. Degree 2 is quadratic. Degree 3, we call that cubic. Degree 4, quartic. And degree 5, we would call that quintic. So we have a constant, linear, a quadratic, a cubic, a quartic, and a quintic. Now, number of terms also have some names. So as we talked about this before, if there's nothing besides just the one thing, we call that we should say that there's one term. If we see there are two things added or subtracted, then we say there are two terms. Here you can see there's 1, 2, 3 things being added or subtracted, and here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Okay? And as we said earlier, one term, we just call that a monomial. Two terms is a binomial. Three terms is a trinomial. And four, what we're going to do for anything that's 4 or more terms, so 4 or more, we're going to just go ahead and use the general polynomial term for that. Okay? So again, polynomial is a generic, all of these are polynomials. But if we get into specifics, this is a monomial, and then we have a binomial, a trinomial, and then anything higher than 3 terms, 4, 5, or more, we're just going to use polynomial. Okay, and so I'll actually do a couple of these down here. So we're trying to name each by degree and by the number of terms. And so I'll do number 3, and I'll also do number 7, and then I'll leave the other ones as practice. All right, so if I'm looking at number 3, if I want to find the degree, I look for the variables, which in this case we have the letter k, and the highest exponent that I see is 4. Okay, and so I know that something that is degree 4, we call that quartic. And now to find the name for the number of terms, you just count. There's 1, 2, 3 things that are being added or subtracted together. And so we call this a quartic. And then for 3 terms, we use the name trinomial. Okay, now for number 7, same thing. The highest exponent for the variable a is 4. So that's also going to be quartic. And now there's only 2 terms, so that'll be a binomial. Okay, so that's kind of how you name these polynomials. All right, let's do a little bit from page 73. The good news is for page 73 that you guys have actually already kind of done this. So we're just going to add and subtract. And for addition, all you're really doing, well, really for addition and subtraction, you're just combining like terms. You've already done this before. So basically, when we have things in parentheses, notice that there is nothing on the outside to distribute. Otherwise, we would do that first. Like if we had a 3 on the outside, we would distribute the 3 first, like we did previously, and then go from there. Or if I had a negative, like we will in the bottom half, okay, here you'd have to distribute the negative to all the terms. Now, when we have straight up addition, there is nothing to distribute. You can, for all intents and purposes, just kind of ignore the parentheses, and you're just combining things. So, for example, I have x squared, and I have another x squared there, and we're adding them, so that's 1x squared plus 2x squared. That makes 3x squared. Okay, and then we look again, we have, right here we have a positive 3x and a negative 4x. So you have positive 3, subtract 4, now you get negative 1x. Okay, and you don't have to write the 1. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. All right, and then finally, you have a constant. You have a 2 here and a 2 there. And so 2 and 2, when you add those together, that makes positive 4. And so this would be your answer. Okay. Now, I'm going to also do number 4. So for number 4, I see xy. Those are my, in this term I have an x and a y. So I'm going to look for any other x's and y's. Here's another one. Here's another one. And so we're just adding these up. So I have 2, 1, and 6. 2 and 1 is 3. Add 6 to that and you get 9xy. And so those are done. And now I just have, let's see, positive 1, negative 5, negative 1. So if you take 1 and negative 5, that's negative 4. Subtract 1, you get negative 5. So 9xy minus 5. Okay, and again, these are similar. Just combine the like terms. I'll do one more example. I'll do that from the bottom part. So that's you know what? I'll do number 5. That's fine. Okay. So for number 5, it's really the same as before, except there's one additional thing. You know what? I'll show you both options here. It depends kind of how you think about these things. Some people suggest if you see a negative that you immediately just rewrite everything. And so since there's nothing in front of the first set of parentheses, we can just lose the parentheses and copy that down. So 3x squared minus 5x plus 3. And now for the second set of parentheses, since we have a negative in front, we are going to distribute that negative to every term. So now we're going to have a minus 2x squared. A negative times a negative is positive x. And then negative times negative is positive there. So we have positive 4. And then now you can combine like terms. So I have a 3x squared and a minus 2x squared. 3 minus 2 is just 1. So that's just 1x squared. We have minus 5x, positive x. So negative 5, add 1. That's going to make negative 4x. And then you also have 3 and 4, both positive. Positive 3, positive 4, that adds up to positive 7. And so this would be your first answer. Now the other option, if you don't want to rewrite the whole thing, you can kind of just do it. If you can do the mental math in your head, you got 3x squared minus 2, that's 1, so that's where we get 1x squared. You have negative 5x minus a negative, so you got to think that's addition. So it's negative 5x plus x is negative 4x. And then you can do the same here. 3 minus negative 4, so that'll be really 3 plus 4, so that's 7. Okay, but you know, that takes some practice to get that. If it helps, I would suggest rewriting it first and then just combining like terms like you guys have been doing. Okay. The rest of the problems on pages 72 and 73, you guys should do for practice. See you next time.